Lakshmi is the mother of 4.5-year-old Ramu. One day, she visits a relative Ashok who runs a preschool center. At the time of the visit, Ashok was displaying children's drawings on the walls of the room. After greeting each other, Lakshmi remarked, "Oh, what beautiful drawings these children have made. My child doesn't draw well at all. Tell me, what should I do?" Ashok replied, "Maybe he doesn't enjoy drawing. Do not force him to draw. Have you tried giving him paints or clay? He might like to make something with them." Lakshmi said, "Oh, I have tried that as well. All he makes is some lines and circles and some figures which don't look like the real thing. I make scenery or some figures for him to copy, but he just doesn't show an interest in them. Once I gave him clay, all he did was just to make it into round balls. Also, he knows so many rhymes, but when I tell him to sing in front of the guests, he forgets the word or sings out of tune. Tell me what to do. What would you say if you were in Ashok's place?" We learned in the last unit that for children to be creative, they must desire to do the task rather than have it thrust upon them. Asking children to choose what they want to do help them to understand that they are not being forced to do something. Encourage children to make choices about their play activities and the play materials they would like to use. For example, instead of telling children that they must draw, you can give them a choice between drawing, painting, making a collage, or making models with clay. They are all activities that allow self expression. Similarly, rather than putting out three colors for painting, ask children to choose the colors they want. Providing a choice also provides variety, and this is important since different activities appeal to different children. Offer support when needed, but interfere as little as possible. Children will often come to you to show you what they have made. "How is it? It is good, isn't it?" they may say. What they are asking for you is your approval. At such times, encourage and appreciate them. Never criticize their effort. A child took his clay model to show to the educator, who asked him, "What have you made?" The child responded proudly, "A man." The man was a longish roll of clay. The teacher frowned and said, "This doesn't look like a man. Where are the arms and legs?" Saying this, she took the model from the child and reshaped it. "Here, take this. Now make one like this," she said. Watching the teacher changing his clay sculpture, the child lost interest. He put the teacher's clay model away and went to play outside. The teacher had clearly dampened his enthusiasm. If the teacher had drawn the children's attention to his model by saying, "Would you like to add the arms and legs?" she would have channelized the child's thinking in that direction without curbing his enthusiasm. There is a difference between suggesting and imposing one's ideas. Children may need help with the play materials. A child who took to working with clay with great interest was about to give it up since the clay was too hard to be made into anything. The educator, seeing the child struggle, softened the clay by adding some water. Schedule some activities each day that allow self expression and make these activities as creative as possible. When formulating the curriculum and making the schedule of activities for the day, you must be careful to see that you have provided enough activities that will foster the child's creativity. Most activities, for example, painting, dancing, working with clay, collage, movement activities, storytelling, and dramatization, can be creative or restrictive depending upon how you organize the activity. The more freedom a child gets in doing an activity, the more opportunity it gives for being creative. Stated in another way, activities that require the least amount of control and instruction by the teacher are the ones which have the greatest potential for creative self expression. For example, while painting, if you give the child complete freedom in deciding what she wants to paint, the variation she wants to use, and in choosing the colors, tools, and surface, then the activity has immense scope for creativity. If you ask the child to use only certain colors while painting, or if you ask the child to paint a certain theme, or you ask to blow a paint or finger paint, and then you are limiting the child's freedom to what they want. However, within these confines, the child still has considerable scope to be creative. This type of activity is important to help the children understand that there are many variations in painting. But having introduced them to these methods, the latter sessions of painting should allow them to choose what and how they want to paint. What happens in many preschools is completely different. The child is asked to color a drawing made by the teacher or copy a drawing from the board. This is least creative. The child has no freedom at all. Often, she doesn't even have the freedom to choose the colors, as the teachers or the parents insist that the drawing be realistic and therefore only specific colors have to be used. In this table, we have categorized activities according to their potential for creative self-expression. You would notice that the activities in column 1 do not require much instruction from the educator. This should be offered over and over again. They have the potential to be most creative. Of course, the educator will need to guide the children as to how to use the play material. Activities in column 2 require more instruction, at least initially, by the teacher. They tend to have a definite focus and directions and restrict to some extent the expression of ideas. However, despite this, there is considerable opportunity for the children to express their ideas. For example, before the festival of Diwali, suggesting the children to make Diwali cards may put a limit as to what they can draw, but at the same time, it also helps to make something relevant to the situation. There are some people who would say that activities in column 3 are creative. Here there is a confusion between creativity and merely making something. When the teacher makes a model of a house from scrap, she is being creative, but not the children who are asked to copy. The activities mentioned in column 3 are in this sense the least creative. In some cases, you might find that it is better to begin with column 2 activities so that children understand how to use the play material and then go on to column 1 activities. For example, children will need some guidance in handling puppets, and therefore if you carry out an activity like the one described in column 2, it will give some idea to children as to how they can play with the puppets. Subsequently, you can encourage children to handle puppets as described in column 1. How can teachers promote creativity? While planning a creative activity, build creative objectives into your planning. You could integrate these with subject-specific objectives. Look for opportunities to promote creativity in your existing schemes of work and lesson plans. Could you adopt any activities so that they offer more potential for creativity? Devise activities that are personally and culturally authentic. Try to build on people's interests and experiences both in and out of the school. Plan for a range of teaching and learning styles so that as many people as possible have the opportunity to show their creativity. Role play can increase people's imaginative engagement and give them freedom to explore ideas. Hands-on experimentation, problem solving, discussion and collaborative work all provide excellent opportunities for creative thinking and behavior. Never lose sight of the importance of knowledge and skills. Pupils are only able to engage creatively and purposefully with the challenges they encounter if they have a solid base of knowledge and skills. When introducing activities, give pupils a clear goal that is challenging yet achievable. Share objectives with the pupils and give them opportunities to choose ways of working and how to shape the direction of work. Stimulating starting points such as sights, sounds, smells, visits, and contact with creative people capture people's interest and fire their imagination. Give pupils a set of constraints, for example, limit time and/or resources. This makes an activity more approachable and can encourage pupils to improvise and experiment. Here are some of the points you need to keep in mind when teaching. Actively encourage pupils to question, make connections, envisage what might be and explore ideas. Promote and reward imagination and originality. Value and praise what pupils do and say. Establish an atmosphere in which they feel safe to say things, take risks and respond creatively. Create a fun, relaxed working environment if you want to encourage pupils to be adventurous and explore ideas freely. Create conditions for quiet reflection and concentration. if you want to encourage people to work imaginatively. Make the most of unexpected events. When appropriate, put aside your lesson plan and go with the moment, but never lose sight of your overall learning objectives. Be willing to stand back and let people take the lead. However, make sure that you are always on hand to provide prompts and support as needed. Join in with activities and model creative thinking and behavior. Showing the peoples that you are a learner too can help to create an open, constructive learning environment. Give peoples opportunities to work with others from their class, peer group, and different age groups. When reviewing the created work, you need to do certain things. Help peoples to develop criteria that they can use to judge their own work, in particular its originality and value. This can be as simple as asking what makes a good. Stop regularly for open discussion of the problems peoples are facing and how they can solve them. Encourage peoples to share ideas with others and to talk about their progress. Help peoples to appreciate the different qualities in others' work and to value ways of working that are different from their own. Help peoples to give and receive constructive feedback. This content relates to the 1999 programs of study and attainment targets. Build an expectation of creativity into your school's learning and teaching policy. Consider providing extended cross-subjects projects that give people opportunities to take greater control of their learning, work together, and make connections between different areas of their learning. Try to avoid over-compartmentalized teaching. If people see the whole picture and are helped to recognize relationships and patterns in their learning, they will gain a deeper understanding. Involve all the school in an event to experience and celebrate creative learning. Show and share tangible changes that result from creativity. Encourage, recognize, and reward people's creativity. Ask teachers to nominate examples of creativity and celebrate these at a school or a year assembly. Providing appropriate resources ensures the production of creative work. Make sure the peoples have the resources they need to be creative, for example, high quality materials, tools, apparatus, and equipment. Make sure that peoples have the space they need to be creative, for example, space for dance and drama to create on a large scale in art and design. Make sure the peoples have access to film, video, and the internet, which help them to connect their learning to life outside school and to first-hand experience of objects and environments which stimulate their curiosity. Agree and provide key entitlements such as working with artists and other creative professionals, going to the theatre, or learning a musical instrument. Involve peoples in creating a stimulating environment. For example, they could help to redesign the playground or improve the school's natural spaces. Work with higher education and other agencies to get access to resources. Tap the creativity of staff, parents, and the local community. We will move on to the essential conditions for a creative curriculum. Progression, that is, the arrangements that help students become comfortable with tools, get them to use tools with less and less help and guidance, and end with them identifying for themselves situations which can be handled well by the use of a combination of the tools they have to handle. Openness to choice. There may be limited choice between modules, but there can be a lot of choice within modules if they are designed on a core and application basis. Teachers introduce the key tools, concepts, strategies, information sources, and then have students practice them on problems what they have the students choose or identify. Novel tasks, where students are set fresh tasks that require them to draw from their learning in several modules, and when these are not convergent tasks, which ones that allow a variety of good responses, then creativity is favored. Teachers might find themselves considering the plausibility of the solutions and then awarding marks on the basis of students' accounts of their problem working strategies. Differentiated assessment. Narrow, summatively driven assessment practices will smother creativity. An emphasis on learning for understanding rather than learning for extensive content mastery. There is evidence that an emphasis on coverage encourages superficiality. Superficiality is not conducive to creativity. Understanding, which comes from covering less ground with more emphasis on the underlying concepts, strategies, and assumptions, is conducive to creativity. Put it another way, cover less material but in ways that help students to understand more about the domain and its complex learning outcomes. Knowing students. If students understand the rules of the game and why the program is as it is, and then they are better placed to reflect and enter into the spirit of the creativity game. Students who do not know the rules are likely to try much harder to bargain it into familiar and safe shapes. Portfolios. Owned by the student and central to metacognition, they encourage learners to sustain their own climbs to achievement, convergent and divergent in their own ways. Openness to innovation. Possibilities for change need to be designed into the program from the beginning. Sound evaluations. It has been implied that programs that favor creativity are rigorous ones. Good program evaluation practices, ones that go far beyond the standard module tick list approaches, support rigorous academic practices. You would have understood by now that the kind of play materials that will encourage creativity are those that are unstructured, that is, ones that can be manipulated in several different ways and put to several uses. We also call such type of play materials open-ended. Clay, blocks, paints, beads, old cloths, leaves, twigs and pebbles are some examples. Each child can use it in a way in which she wants to use it. In contrast, storybooks, jigsaw puzzles, alphabet and number blocks, graded blocks for seriation and counting, frames are structured play materials since they have specific uses. You must provide children with sufficient play materials. Children's self-expression must not be restricted because of a lack of play materials. Fortunately, the type of play materials children need for self-expressive activities is inexpensive and easily available around you. Some more suggestions regarding play materials are here. You can make use of old ribbons, leather, cloth scraps from tailor shops or factories or stores. Package boxes from stores or from your own house, packing material like thermocol, plastic sheets, spongy material from package boxes from stores or your house. Bark, seeds, dry flowers, leaves, cones, dried fruit. Driftwood, seashells, sand from the beach for collage. Ice cream sticks can be collected by each child whenever they eat an ice cream. Plastic wire, empty ribbon rolls or empty spools from tailor shops, old greeting cards, computer paper. Some computer places have reams of printouts used on one side which is to be thrown away. Wood shavings, small wooden blocks from construction sites or carpenter's shop. Eggshells dried, crushed and dyed for collage. Corks of bottles, useful for collage and science experiments. Creativity needs a conducive social environment to flourish. Disapproval, criticism, and domination can easily destroy it. An individual's personality also determines how innovative he or she will be. People who are unwilling to experiment and to think afresh and who are resistant to suggestions are not likely to be creative. Each one of us is creative as a child, but our originality gets destroyed in the process of growing up. Some of it is the result of our education system and the family. Therefore, as caregivers, it is important that we nourish children's creativity. Provide a climate in the house or the preschool that encourages children to be creative. Experiment and try out with them. Encourage them to make choices. Do not be critical of their work. Rather, appreciate what they make, since for them the process of making is more enjoyable than producing something to perfection. Do not reward them for something which they enjoy doing in the first place in the absence of the reward. Think of ways you can make activities more creative. Help children when they need it, but do not impose your ideas on them. Keep a collection of unstructured play materials in the home or the center. These can be used in different ways by each child and they encourage creative expression.